we're off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week 7 in review on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I finally have my voice back. Took all damn week, but it has returned. And with it, my level of energy and enthusiasm will also increase substantially. This should be fun. What are we doing on these weekly review shows? Something along these lines. It's your week 7 review thread. I guess it's not really a thread. This is what I get for copying and pasting things between different media. They're back. It's injury stash payoff week. That's the big theme here on week 7. Forget the fact that week 7 on Yahoo is actually another week long. We, on Old Man Squad, we go by actual 7 days at a time. A week is a week. A period could be something else, but a week is a week. Follow me at Dan Bespris on Twitter. I am Old Man Squad on Blue Sky and Old Man Squad Fantasy over on Instagram. My good buddy Mike Daly put together another fun short that's over there on Instagram. It's also here on YouTube, and this one pertains to Malik Monk. It's just really cool to have somebody with a legitimate video editing ability helping out. So shout out Mike. My cousin-in-law, I guess, technically. Love having so many cousins in LA. Make sure to hit that like button on the YouTube video. Rate if you're listening after the fact on whatever platform you got. And subscribe. That's the big one. If you don't subscribe, it's just not going to work out for us long term. So please subscribe. That's the big one. YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, whatever you're doing over there. That's the button. Please, please, please hit that subscribe button. We start with the injury replacements because I've gone down this path before. I don't want to take too long with this explanation. Basically, I have these other categories that you're about to see for those that are uninitiated: ads, drops, holds, all that good stuff. People get so anxious when they don't see the guy they're looking for in all of those. But the injury category, where we're looking for players that are replacing other guys who are out, is generally the longest, the most robust, and it's categorized to some degree based on how confident I am in these players. So I wanted to get the big one out of the way first, and that way you guys don't worry if you don't see the player that you're expecting. Most confident injury plays, the first 5, 6, 7 names on this board here. The Time Lord is still up there. As soon as he comes back, we'll deploy him again. Obviously, he's injured with a concussion right now. Bennedict Mathurin in Indiana. That's because of Aaron Nesmith being out. Dosunmu is the new name in the upper echelon of injury replacement players. And we've talked about him throughout the week. He's a guy who's seen his minutes ramp up when Patrick Williams went down, but he didn't see his usage change much until Kobe White went down. And we'll wait and see what the deal is with White. I don't know exactly how long he's going to be out. But every time we get the whole, he's not back yet, we get to roll Dosunmu out again. They've got another game today as part of a back-to-back, but there has not been an update on that one yet. If Kobe White is in, it's an ankle sprain, so it's not going to be a super long-term thing, then I would be very cautious with Dosunmu, because we saw a number of games where Patrick Williams was out, Kobe was in, and Io was playing a bunch, but he wasn't really doing a bunch. Al Horford makes the injury replacement list now that Kristaps Porzingis is back. I don't feel that comfortable playing Horford when everybody's healthy, but we already have data that Porzingis is out tonight and Horford is in. They will flippity-flop for tomorrow, but for tonight, we got a big Al game coming up. Goga Bitadze, now we're starting to inch into the slightly less confident players. Again, there's just sort of too many bigs, and it looked okay for him temporarily, but now it's looking a little bit more murky. Losing time to Wagner, losing time to Wendell Carter Jr. Those guys playing side by side kind of works some of the time, but not against everybody. Jonathan Kuminga with Draymond Green out has looked very, very good these last 2 ball games. Malcolm Brogdon might be out long term now. It's unclear. He just keeps leaving every ball game in the middle of the third quarter. And is it because his team is down 30, or is it because he's actually hurt? We don't know. We can guess, but we don't know. And that's why, actually, if you want to skip ahead a little bit, Bub Carrington is also on the board if Brogdon is out. It's this sort of like nesting doll of injury replacement stuff. Brogdon gets to do more because Kuzma's out. Bub would get to do more if Brogdon was out. Blah, 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 and down the list you go. Nick Richards is a stream while Mark Williams is in ramp-up mode. He played 8 minutes, then he played 11 minutes. Williams, that is. So we still have some time on Nick Richards. Brandon Pajemski with Steph out for the Warriors. He's been more useful when he gets to be the starting point guard. Jared McCain looked really good with both Paul George and Embiid out, although I think Paul George should be back for the Sixers' next ball game, so this one probably a short one. Grady Dick is back. He's more of a threes streamer. Now we're into the, honestly, once we clear Brandon Pajemski, we're kind of into the lower end stuff. Gershon Yabusele with Embiid out, kind of a low-end center play. Vasilije Micic is an assists streamer with LaMelo out for Charlotte. Royce O'Neal is kind of a threes guy with some boards, a couple of defensive stats, but you really got to catch him on a warm night. TJ McConnell's looked kind of interesting lately. Maybe I should move him a little higher on the board. And same with Bub Carrington, because if Brogdon's out, then he's a little bit more interesting. We do have some of these point guards down here in Micic, McConnell, and Bub. And that's kind of fun, because everybody loves picking up a point guard, because those are some of the most entertaining stats to collect off the waiver wire. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform. That's what you're looking for, aren't you? You should. And it's your number one source for online betting. They've got the earliest odds. They've got in-game live betting. They've got the ability to watch the games as they happen, and you can do all of that on football, basketball, college hoops, NHL, UFC, the largest selection of odds, and the best way to track them. Head to BetOnline today. Do not forget to use the new promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Next page of injury players is at least a shorter one. Only, 8 names on this one. KCP's been kind of running hot lately. I thought I'd just throw him on this board here because some of that's because Gary Harris is out. Some of that's because Paolo's out. So that's why there's a couple extra shots for him to take. I mean, honestly, he probably belongs in the stream while hot category of these shows. And you guys might see me move him. I'm not going to do it in real time, but... yeah, I mean, because I don't think that it's necessarily specifically because a player's out that he's doing this. It just, I don't know, whatever. Kelly Oubre Jr., that's only if Paul George is out. Kevon Looney is a rebounds streamer while Draymond Green is out. Rui Hachimura getting just an extra 2 or 3-ish shots with Austin Reeves on the shelf, and he's a low-end guy. Buddy Hield is a low-end guy. This is also Steph-related. He wasn't very good last night either. Mason Plumlee. I thought he'd be better. Phoenix started Oso Ighodaro in one game. They brought Plumlee back to start in the next one, and he was fine, but not great. Keldon Johnson, that's a Wemby small ball kind of stream. And then Sam Hauser, I put at the very last name on this list because, again, we're waiting to find out if any other Celtics might get a little rest on this one. Jason Tatum is in. We got that one already. We don't have an update on Jaylen Brown. I assume he's in, but we don't know yet. And it sounds like the Celtics wings are going to be in. And if that's the case, then you're not playing Sam Hauser. Quick commercial break, and then we'll get to the ads. That's everybody's favorite part, right? All right. So if you're watching along, you can see some asterisks next to these players' names. And many of you have replied to say, Dan, there's got to be a better way. 100% there's a better way. But, I mean, the better way is for me to, what I can do on the podcast, and I can say, oh, well, this is when we started talking about this guy, is probably to put what week they made it onto the show. But this is simpler for me updating, so I can keep track of things better. This is better for me than it is for you. That's the actual explanation for why I'm doing it this way. So if you're watching on YouTube, there are asterisks next to the player names on this ads board. And the ads board is Mark Williams, Herb Jones, Khris Middleton, Yves Missi, Conley, Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter, Jonathan Isaac, Andrew Wiggins. You may note that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those names have been on this board before. The asterisks are how many weeks they've appeared on the ads board. After 4 weeks of being on the ads board, they get retired to some other category, like a rest of season or whatever. And I also have a category for changes happening to guys on this ads board. So just work with me on this. Like, I'm trying my best to fine tune the categorization so that it's easier for you guys to follow along and it's easier for me to make my point in like the social media sphere where I can't provide the same kind of context that I can on a podcast. 3 of the 4 ads names from this past week. And again, we're talking about the entire week. This is not just for today. This is stuff that happened 5-6 days ago. So some of it is outdated. Some of it is stuff that happened over the last day and a half. That's less outdated. Mark Williams, Herb Jones, and Khris Middleton all came back this week. Where Middleton's about to. He's making his debut tonight. So that's that's the most contemporary of the names on this list. But Mark Williams has been back for 2 games. Herb has been back for 1. Middleton has been back for 0 so far. Mark Williams has played a total of 19 minutes in his 2 games. It's going to be a very slow ramp-up process. We're going to see him probably get to 13, 14 minutes in their next ball game. He'll probably get to 16 in the game after that. And then my guess is there will probably be a stretch where he just levels off for a little while. Luckily, nobody plays all that regularly over the next week and a half, so it'll be really easy to ramp players up. This is the perfect time for injured guys to return because there aren't back-to-backs coming up until week 9. And so there's these recovery days, which are great for these dudes. I mean, it might even be the time we see Joel Embiid get back in there because of the super long recovery time, but that's a, tea leaf reading, uneducated hypothesis. But these guys all need to be on rosters. Mark Williams at full tilt, 26, 27 minutes, was a top 60 player last year. Herb Jones at full tilt was a top 65 player last year. Khris Middleton is not the Khris Middleton of old. He's basically missed half of each of the last 3 seasons due to injury. He's just, slow now. I don't think we're quite at like Klay Thompson zone. I don't think that's a thing because Middleton does more stuff, more well-rounded. Even if Thompson's peak was probably more exciting, Middleton rebounds a little better, passes a little better, like all that kind of stuff. So like we're not going to get the top 45 Khris Middleton of 4 years ago, but there's a pathway for him to be, 75, 80 range kind of guy as he gets ramped up as well. So all of those guys need to be on rosters, find room for them, because typically the guys we find on the waiver wire, other than the first 2 or 3 days of the season, are guys that we end up dropping or contemplating dropping or hanging around like at 105. And if you can find someone that legitimately has like 5th, 6th round potential, that's the guy you gotta create space for. Yves Missi is another ad from, this was like almost a full 7 days ago is when he became an ad, but that technically falls within the last week. So I got to be honest with the number of asterisks as he was on the watch list last Friday. Then he started to play better as they got their key guys back. Then he became an ad. So now full week under his belt. If we do these weekly shows on Monday, he'd be, 5 days into already being on this list. But anyway, he's looked really good as the Pelicans have gotten better around him. It's made his job more tunneled. Go get rebounds, go dunk balls, go play defense. Simple, right? Well, it wasn't when the team was rolling out Brandon Boston as their top player. Because then they were like, oh yeah, Missi, you got to create sometimes. And the ball's going to end up in your hands when it really shouldn't. And it got funky for him. The learning curve wasn't great. Here are the retread names on the ads board. I don't know. Do you guys need me to talk through Mark Williams, Herb Jones, and Khris Middleton? Herb looked great in his first game back. I don't think you guys need me to give you much of an explanation because these are, well, Williams is not an old guy, but these are largely household names. As are a lot of the sort of reminder names. Mike Conley, this is his 2nd week back on the ads board, although I did tell you to hold him all season long. So just to be clear, this show has been a hold on Conley. Bogdan Bogdanovic, he was an ad when he was coming back from his injury because he got dropped in a lot of spots because he played one very bad ball game. DeAndre Hunter, I think we've generally been higher on Hunter on this show than others, and they get to play the hapless Lakers, so I don't think it's slowing down tonight. Jonathan Isaac got a slight downgrade over the last week. He was a straight ad when it looked like he was going to get consistent minutes, even in back-to-back games. His minutes have bounced around and left with cramping. So I've relegated him back to the games cap universe. the GCU. You got the DCU, you got the MCU, and you got the GCU. That's the games cap universe. There are far fewer special effects. And Andrew Wiggins, third reminder on Wiggins as well. Couple updates on guys that were on the ads board last week. Robert Williams was a 3-star or a 3 asterisk guy, but he's been concussed now for over a week. So I've transferred him to an injury stash. I don't want to give up on the Time Lord, and he's a games cap guy anyway, so it doesn't really hurt you to just stick him on your bench. And Dalton Knecht is a drop. He went from an ad to a drop in 1 week. Teams have game plan for him. Guys are just stuck to him, and the Lakers Twitter is actually doing a marvelous job of illustrating all the things that the team is doing poorly. Some of it is very obvious, like not guarding anyone on defense and having no speed to keep up with the modern NBA. Some of it, I think, I don't know, maybe it's sort of like semi-obvious, but until you really see it out in front of you, and then it becomes so glaring, and now you can't not see it anymore. And it's that the Lakers, like, other than Anthony Davis, don't actually set screens. They pretend to set screens. And then on defense, and this is a thing that I've been irritated about for a long time, and it's getting more attention, is that they switch everything, even when it creates some of the worst mismatches, and they don't even try not to. Like, sometimes they'll switch it when a player's not even really screening. It's like, switch it. It's lazy. They're trying to switch everything to make sure nobody gets to go straight to the bucket. But it creates these god-awful rebounding disadvantages. It creates huge guarding disadvantages. And other than Anthony Davis, most of these guys can't guard someone who's not their size and speed equal. Other than, like, Cam Reddish, but also he can't play offense. So anyway, Dalton Knecht, he's getting a rookie learning curve thing. He's getting smacked in the face by them. I'm not going to go down that path. Here are some of this is the ROS winners. These are the rest of season guys that have been on the ads board for 4 weeks or more. Also listed is what week they made it onto the ads board. Christian Braun, Dyson Daniels, who you should have drafted. We had him on every draft board here, but in a lot of leagues he wasn't, so we put him on the ads board in the first week just to be thorough. Those guys were week 1. Tari Eason, week 3. Shaedon Sharpe and PJ Washington, also week 3. Although, again, remember, we've been very high on PJ. That just happened to be the week he came back from his early season knee stuff. But I was telling you guys to try to hold him through it. So sometimes these lists don't parallel what I say, like the other 5 to 10 shows we're doing every week, but it does parallel the rostership numbers. That's kind of how guys end up in certain buckets. One more commercial break, and then we'll get into the holds. Clear holds. Peyton Pritchard, that's an easy one. Jonas Valanciunas, he's been up and down, but overall he's like right in that should be on rosters, but barely zone. He's number 124, but you're not going to find somebody with his strong percentages and the ability to do some rebounding. Those guys just aren't on the wire. The guys that get his number of boards have some issue, some massive glaring issue with them. JV might trend towards a not that clear hold, depending on how this season evolves and if he gets moved early or late. I think like the guys that signed, can they move in like 9 days? Are we that close? I might be misremembering that. Drew Holiday's been out for a couple of ball games, but he's a hold. Clint Capella's been pretty good lately. I gave him a lot of crap early in the year, but he's been better. And again, they get to play the Lakers now, so this could go any number of ways. But based on the way things are usually going, it's going to be a good one for him. So he's a hold these days, especially if you're punting free throws. I threw Christian Braun in here just because he hasn't been quite as world-beaty as he was to begin the season, but he's still number 73. And I think we always kind of knew that the free throw number would come down. Now it's at 74. Field goal probably still has some room to fall a little bit. But overall, he still profiles as, 8th rounder or better. So hold. Colin Sexton, He continues to do literally just enough for me to be like, yeah, I guess you got to keep him on your roster. He's a filler level guy so far, but he's a filler level guy who's doing it on decent percentages with okay scoring, and those guys are hard to find. Turnovers are also somewhat problematic for him, not so much because they're super high, but because he has 2.5 turnovers and only 3.2 assists. The other guys that are in that 2.5 turnover range are in the like 5 to 6 assist zone. So, Colin, please be better. We feel that you could be. D'Angelo Russell, much clearer hold this week than he was the last few. He's finally trending up a little bit, although everybody on the Lakers was bad in that last ball game. And then Jabari Smith Jr. Tari Eason is dealing with concussion symptoms, head injury. So we don't know exactly how long that's going to be, but it certainly solidifies Jabari Smith Jr.'s role, which was actually trending in the right direction anyway, as he started to kind of warm back up after a terrible, terrible start. I do think that ultimately Jabari Smith Jr., Colin Sexton, Jonas Valanciunas, in particular from this list, those guys, and maybe Capella as well, probably Capella too, those guys probably all fall somewhere in the filler territory, which I should probably, is more like, 115 to 150. You could start them. It's not a big deal, but they're also not really helping that much. Hurting maybe a little more than they're helping, but maybe it's attacking a category you need, that kind of stuff. But right now, those guys are holds because something either is going slightly well for them or the options are not that good elsewhere. The time to worry guys are largely the same. It's still Yusuf Nurkic because dude can't just get himself right this year. Jalen Duren, I don't see how you could possibly cut him. As I've said on the show many times, you wait for a Duren big game and then you try to sell. You might be waiting a while, though. And Onyeka Okongwu, I could not possibly figure out where to categorize Okongwu. And, if you guys want to nail me for it, that's totally fine because I can't, there isn't the right category for him. He's not a watch list guy because he's been a little bit better than that lately. He's not a clear ad guy because he's been a little bit worse than that lately. He's filler. But where do I put filler guys who are slightly warm right now? The Stream While Hot collection? That make it sound like a series of movies or like a clothing store. I don't know. So I put him here because I don't know. I got nothing. Sorry, guys. Cutboard. Oh, Bilal's on the cutboard. I got to be honest with myself. He had 4 very good weeks to start the year. He's been trending down very hard. And in his last ball game, he shot 0 for 10. That's about as bad as it's going to get, friends. I still, overall, love the peripheral stuff. I like the big minutes. I like the rebounds. I like the assists. I like the steals. I like the blocks. What I don't like is how unbelievably cold he is right now, and it's impacting his psyche. You can see there are shots he normally would take. Yes, guys, I watched a Wizards game. I try to do it once every blue moon because you got to know what these guys are doing. You can't just box score analyze every single thing. You got to see it sometimes because there's stuff happening. And watching Bilal play right now is watching a scared player. He drives. He sees anybody slightly bigger than himself. His body doesn't even bother to compute whether this is someone who can protect the rim or not. And he peels away. It was like he pulled down a dark alley, realized there was no outlet, and then screeched backwards. That was watching him play. I mean, okay, like Derek Lively, decent rim protector, but you can attack. It's allowed. It's allowed. Ultimately, he will snap out of this because he's a good young basketball player. He'll get his confidence back and he'll go on another little run, but I don't see how you can possibly start him while he's playing this poorly. So he got moved out of the rest of season department. Hope you get back in there, Bilal. We'll start your ads board all over again. Kevin Huerter is an obvious cut. So is Keon Ellis now that Malik Monk is the starting shooting guard for the Sacramento Kings. Terry Rozier is a cut. I was trying to hang on to him to see if his role would increase depending on who was in or who was out, or if they were kind of ramping him up slowly due to his foot stuff. And maybe they are. It's possible the Heat are still very slow ramping Terry Rozier, but I also kind of feel like they're just going with whatever combo of players is working on a given night, and he gets lumped into the hot hand group. with Duncan Robinson and Jaime Jaquez and Haywood Highsmith and whoever else the Heat are willing to trot out there, because they have an abundance of competent basketball players, and none of those guys has separated themselves as we should get full starters minutes with Butler, Adebayo, and Hero. Well, that's not a guy I want to roster. This one's a tough one, and you guys can argue with me about this. I'm fine with that. I'm trying to predict the future in a lot of what I do on this show, and so Deni Avdija is on the cut board, and you're going to look at me like, what are you, some kind of idiot, Dan? Yeah, but that's not really the point on this one. Avdija was an ad when Jeremy Grant was out. And I know that in his last ball game, the numbers still looked pretty good. He had 15 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, and a steal, made 3 3-pointers, 6 out of 9, 67% from the field. But the thing that jumps out was the 9 shots and the 23 minutes. People are willing to overlook that because he had a good enough ball game to cover up the opportunity element. When Jeremy Grant was out for a week, or whatever it was, 3-4 games, something like that, Avdija's minutes over the 5 games before this last one, and I know it was a blowout, so maybe he would have seen a couple more in the fourth quarter, but we can't know that for sure. His minutes were 33, 32, 41, 37, and 29. That, I think, was that the game Grant came back, was the 29? So, yeah, there's still a possibility that he can get in there for 27, 28 minutes, and in that case, there might barely be enough. But if Scoot is back, which he might be, that takes some of the point guard duties off the table. Simons is in there. Grant is in there. And then the only guy that's out is Donovan Clingan, basically, who, yeah, I mean, does that open up a couple extra minutes for Avdija for the Blazers to go bigger? Yeah. Or Robert Williams is out as well. So there's a little bit of that big man stuff still floating around. But in my mind, it's not enough. Because 23 minutes, if he's not shooting the lights out, he's not doing enough. 25, not enough. 28, maybe. But he better get some assist numbers. And that's the other thing. When Grant was out, his assist numbers were like 6, 7, 5. When Grant's been in, it's mostly between 1 and 4. We need distributor Avdija and not finisher Avdija if we want 9 cat value. Field goal percent has been very bad. So it's also possible that he goes on a little bit of a heater here to get back into the mid-40s. He's at 41.5 right now. Free throw's been good, oddly enough. But again, like even thinking back to last year, Avdija's numbers got good when the usage guys went out. He needs the usage, not just the playing time. And so maybe I'm being too cruel by calling him a cut. You could call him a time to worry guy. I just think that with, specifically right now, with all of these like proven guys coming off the injured list and other things popping up, I'd rather go get those dudes. Shaedon McDaniels had a nice hot streak, but he's settled back into filler zone, so you can go ahead and cut him and play him for a schedule, guys. Here's the other thing. This time to cut board could also be called schedule play guys. Same with the time to worry guys. The time to worry guys are probably just above schedule play. The time to cut board is like pretty heavily schedule play guys. If you get almost any one of these dudes where they're playing like 3 games in 4 nights, absolutely have frickin' at it. But if you're talking about a roto games cap or a poor scheduling run, Bobby Portis, he's been on this for a few weeks. We can probably just remove him after this. Same with Dante DiVincenzo. He's been a cut for a few weeks yet. I'm keeping him on the list. I want to keep Dante's name in this Friday show in case anything starts to look better. So I can be like, hey, remember he was a cut for the last 3 weeks in a row. Now he's back to a watch list guy or something like that. Yeah, I know he had one good ball game against the Lakers, but again, everybody does. Wendell Carter Jr. is a cut. He's just such a low-end big man. Such a low-end big man. He's number 138 and trending the wrong way. He's an okay percentages guy who rebounds but doesn't do a whole lot else. He's not even getting shots in that Orlando offense this year. Blech, I say. Blech. And Jaden Ivey, and you guys are going to kill me for this one too, but he's number 185. I did like 10 minutes on him on yesterday's recap show. So I'm not going to do that again. If you guys want to see my thoughts on why I think Ivy is a cut, you can go back to the show. It's called Is TJ McConnell a Must Add? It was the Thursday recap show. I think that was actually the second one that dropped on Thursday. But But basically, the extremely short version is right now, his good stuff isn't elite enough. So even in a punt build, he's not helpful enough. Yeah, he's better in a punt build, but it's still not good enough. For a punt build, you need someone who's even worse at the stuff he's bad at, as long as they're better at the stuff he's good at. And the example I keep using is RJ Barrett, who I know had a worse ball game yesterday. He's number 141. He's terrible at free throw and turnovers, but he's much, much better at scoring and boards and assists. And so the bad is still outweighing the good, but because on a punt, you just knock those off, that's where you get that advantage. And then Zachary Risa-Shea, I don't know why his name is still on here. We don't even need to talk about him right now because the Hawks are winning games and they're not going to force it. Watch list. We got some new names on the watch list, guys. This is actually kind of a fun one to make up this week. Grayson Allen is on the watch list. He's had a number of solid games in a row. Some of those were because Bradley Beal was out. Some of them now are because Kevin Durant is out. Some of it is because they liked running him alongside the big guns, and he was distributing well. Grayson Allen had 10 assists in their last ball game, and it was actually Tyus Jones that lost a couple of minutes to Allen. I'm not convinced that he can do good things nightly as long as both Booker and Beal and Tyus, if all three of those guys are healthy, it's probably too dicey to go Allen. But I'm starting to think that if any one of those three guys is out, it might be Grayson Allen time. Miles McBride is a watch list guy, just in case, mostly in case anybody gets hurt for the Knicks. Precious Achiuwa is a watch list guy for when he ramps up. Cason Wallace might be a punt points superstar right now. He's averaging 7 points a game, and he's right around the edge of the top 100. If you are punting points, Cason Wallace is number 58 this year. He just doesn't shoot at all. Doesn't matter that he's shooting 42% from the field. He's taking 6.5 shots. Super low turnovers is also part of the equation. That's a little problematic because in 8-cat, he sees a huge drop-off. So if you're an 8-cat and you're punting points, he ends up right back at the top 100. If you're a 9-cat punting points, he fits well with if you have any like high assist punt points guys. And he's also going to provide you just a truckload of defensive stats without harming you much in the percentages. So, I mean, and it's a weird blend for him. I have not added him anywhere, just for the record, because you guys see guys like that, and your first thought is, oh, I bet Dan loves that dude. I mean, kind of. Thing is, my punt points teams are generally pretty good at steals and blocks anyway, so I'm not usually hunting those guys on the wire. Oddly, I'm usually hunting a guy that has better percentages. Like, that's the guys that I usually forget to get in a punt points team, is the guys to lock in the high percentages. Russell Westbrook, Marcus Smart, and Alex Caruso, they've been on the watch list for a couple of weeks now. I don't know what the hell to make of Marcus Smart. I'll be honest with you guys. The team that I am struggling with the most in handicapping this year is the Memphis Grizzlies. I know my shortcomings. As my father used to say, I'm comfortable in my shortcomings. My shortcoming this year is I don't know what the hell Memphis is going to do on a night-to-night basis. I know that I'm starting John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. And so to some degree, I've just kind of simplified my life by saying I'm just going to play those guys, and I'm not going to worry about the rest of it all that much. But then you've got someone like Asante Aldama, who's shooting out of his freaking mind this year. He's at 52% from the field and rising. He's drinking that Vooch juice. But, like, he's been a low to mid 40s guy. Is he just way better? Or are we in a 23-game hot streak? I think the 23-game hot streak is still the more likely scenario, but damned if you shouldn't be playing him while he's this hot. And then what about Smart? He's been terrible so far this year, but the 3 of the last 4 ball games, Marcus has actually been very good. Over the last week, he's averaging 11 and 6 with 2 steals. He still can't shoot, but that's playable now. Over the last 2 weeks, he's shooting 45%, and that's actually gotten him inside the top 100 because the high steals number and, 5 assists, but only 23 minutes. It doesn't feel like he should be able to keep that up long term. But then I also wonder, could his minutes trend up towards 26 or 27? Is the plan to keep him at 23, 24 minutes forever? Memphis beat Sacramento in a very entertaining game yesterday. Marcus Smart played 26 minutes, but also John Morant got ejected before he could play the last 6 or 7 minutes of the ball game. So did we get an extra 3 out of Marcus Smart? I would say probably, possibly. Jake LaRavia got the bigger bump, I would argue. But still, I don't know. I really don't know with Marcus Smart. He's on a heater right now. That's a thing. But he's also just doing more. So it's both. So he's on my watch list in a lot of spots. On leagues where I need steals, I've picked him up. But man, that bad game in between the 3 good ones was really, really bad. And then Alex Caruso, who finally had his first good shooting game of the entire damn year and then blew out his hip. And now we're just waiting to see what the hell's going to come next. Also, you guys are familiar with 5 of the names on the Stream While Hot board. Jordan Clarkson, Lou Dort, Buddy Hield, Karis LeVert, and Malik Beasley. We have added Santi Aldama to the board, and I'm also going to add Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I'm not going to do it in real time because that's stupid podcasting to watch and or listen to, but just, mental note it. KCP, Aldama, Clarkson, Dort, Hield, LeVert, and Beasley. These are guys that get hot, and it typically lasts for a couple of weeks, and for Aldama, it's lasting a month and a half. When they get hot, you deploy. When they are not, you run for the hills as fast as you can because the bottom falls out and it is oogly. Oogly. Thanks for watching, everybody. That was our weekend review show, and that is actually it for today on Friday here on Old Man Squad Network. Tomorrow, we will have a Saturday morning special episode. It's not going to be a Friday recap show. It's actually going to be a buy low, sell high show with the great Dan Titus of Yahoo Sports. That should be a lot of fun. He and I are recording that in a few hours, and that'll drop first thing on Saturday morning. I'm going to try to get those Saturday morning shows more consistently rolling out to you. This week, it's not a Friday recap, so I guess it's a little bit of a different format, but it did seem like the Saturday morning show was a big hit. You guys all liked it. The feedback was incredibly positive. Thank you, Dan, for having something on a weekend, that kind of stuff. So we'll see if we can keep that going. Again, on Twitter, I'm at Dan Besbris, Besbris is how you spell that last name. Old Man Squad on the new Blue Sky Network, Old Man Squad Fantasy over on Instagram. Please drop a follow on all or some of those locations. Subscribe, you jerks. I need you. Subscribe. No matter where you're taking the content, hit that like button on YouTube before you head on your merry way. Feel free to drop a comment if you feel so inclined. And then, of course, Apple, Spotify, you guys hit that 5-star. That remains quite useful. Thanks, as always, to Bet Online for another awesome week. Thank you to Kayla, our one guest we had this week. Thank you in advance to Dan Titus and so many guests coming up for you guys over the next 2 to 3 weeks here leading up to Christmas. It's like a present under the tree every single time. All right, I'm Dan, and I'm out. See you guys soon.